The big room on planet Kepler 442b was full of angry voices. 12 different alien races sat around a huge table, all looking at the humans with hate in their eyes. The humans had only been part of the Galactic Council for 3 years, but they were already causing problems. Ambassador Catherine Blake stood at the human table. She was 50 years old with gray hair and blue eyes that missed nothing. Next to her sat General Marcus Cole, a tough man who had fought in many wars. His uniform was simple compared to the fancy clothes the aliens wore. The aliens were mad because humans kept building colonies in space without asking permission. In just 3 years, humans had spread to dozens of star systems. They built cities on planets that other races claimed belonged to them. The leader of the meeting was Vextar, a giant lizard creature with shiny scales. He was from the Zelthani race, one of the oldest in the galaxy. His scales were turning red, which meant he was getting angry. "The humans must stop," said the Bracken war chief, hitting the table with his armored fist. He looked like a cross between a bear and a robot. "They have built colonies in 7 systems that belong to us." Catherine Blake did not look worried. She kept her hands behind her back and spoke in a calm voice. "We followed all the rules when we built those colonies. We checked that no one was living on those planets first. Your idea of empty is wrong," hissed the snake-like serpentine delegate. His long body was coiled around his chair and his yellow eyes glowed with anger. "You ignore our holy places and hunting grounds." The Lumiari representative was a being made of light that could change colors. Right now she was glowing red with anger. "Humans show no respect for laws that are 10,000 years old." General Cole leaned forward a little. His gray eyes looked at each alien carefully. He wore the uniform of the Terran Defense Force. But most aliens thought human weapons were weak and old compared to their own technology. "Maybe those old laws need to change," Ambassador Blake said with a small smile. "The galaxy is different now." The room went quiet. Several aliens looked at each other with worry. This young race was becoming more bold with each meeting. The Vorthan delegate was made of living crystal that made soft musical sounds when he moved. His thoughts appeared as words in the air above his head. "Do humans think they are above the law? We think laws made by races who never met humans might need to be updated," Blake answered. Her voice was still calm, but there was steel in it now. Vextar's scales turned darker red. "Are you saying humanity refuses to follow galactic law?" "We are saying that maybe it is time to make new laws," Blake replied. "Laws that work for everyone, including humans." The crystal being's body started to shake, making angry music. "Impossible. These laws have kept peace in the galaxy for thousands of years." Admiral Zefkol of the Kelthani Navy stood up. He was tall and thin with too many arms and a mouth full of sharp teeth. His people had controlled space for longer than humans had existed. "Young races must learn their place," he said in a voice like breaking glass. General Cole's right hand moved closer to the weapon on his belt. It was just a small movement, but some of the aliens noticed. They thought it was funny that humans still carried such primitive weapons. "Our place," Catherine Blake said slowly, "is wherever we choose to make it." The Gorvani delegate was part machine, part living tissue. His voice buzzed like an angry insect. "Your arrogance will destroy you. There are rules about expansion. Rules about territory. Rules about respect." "Respect works both ways," General Cole said. It was the first time he had spoken, and his voice cut through the alien chatter like a knife. "You want our respect, but you show us none." The floating jellyfish-like creature from the ethereal collective pulsed with angry purple light. "Humans are children playing with forces they do not understand." "Children grow up," Blake said. "And when they do, sometimes they have to teach the adults new ways of doing things." Admiral Zefkol laughed, a sound like metal scraping on stone. "Your entire fleet is maybe 200 ships. We have 15,000. Do you really think you can threaten us?" Captain Lisa Martinez, the human military representative, stood up. She was younger than the others, with brown hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her uniform had no fancy decorations, just her name and rank. "Numbers can be deceiving, Admiral." "Is that a threat?" The Bracken war chief rose to his full height of nearly 3 meters. His battle armor was covered in scars from 100 fights. "It is a fact," Martinez said calmly. The first day of talks ended with both sides angry. The aliens thought the humans were being foolish and would soon learn their lesson. The humans seemed calm, which made some of the smarter aliens nervous. As the delegates left the chamber, private messages flew between the alien ships. The humans had to be stopped. If they would not listen to reason, then force would make them understand. What the aliens did not know was that every human ship in the system was much more than it appeared to be. During the meeting, Captain Martinez had sent a coded message to all human vessels. The dancing bear has left the circus. Deep inside ships that looked like simple transports, weapon systems that should not exist began to wake up. The humans had come to the peace talks ready for war, but they had hidden their weapons so well that even the most advanced alien sensors could not detect them. The galaxy was about to learn that humans were very good at keeping secrets, and even better at being ready for trouble. In his private quarters, General Cole checked his secure communicator. Messages were coming in from human fleets throughout the galaxy. Everything was ready. If the aliens wanted a fight, they would get one, but it would not be the easy victory they expected. Ambassador Blake sat in her room, reviewing files on each alien race. She knew their strengths, their weaknesses, their fears, and their pride. Humans had studied their enemies well. The aliens thought they were dealing with a young, weak race. They were about to discover how wrong they were. The peace talks would continue tomorrow. But peace, Catherine Blake knew, was not what the aliens really wanted. They wanted submission. They wanted humans to bow down and follow rules made by races who had never had to fight for survival the way humans had. Tomorrow, the aliens would learn that humans did not bow to anyone. The second day began with the aliens showing their strength. Admiral Zefkol stood in front of a huge screen that showed every human colony in space. His thin face was full of pride as he pointed to each human settlement. "Look at what the humans have built," he said to the room full of delegates. "In 18 months, they have put military bases in the Omega Cluster, the Vega systems, and the Outer Rim territories." The screen zoomed in on human colonies. Each one looked like a fortress instead of a peaceful town. Big guns pointed toward space. Thick walls surrounded every building. Shield generators hummed with power. "These are not homes for families," Admiral Zefkol continued. "These are weapons pointed at the galaxy." Captain Lisa Martinez stood up to defend humanity. Her simple uniform looked plain next to the golden armor and jeweled robes of the alien military leaders. "Admiral, those are normal defenses," she said. "Any smart race would protect their people when moving to new worlds." The Gorvani delegate's metal parts clicked as he moved. "Normal? Your defenses include guns that can crack planets in half." Ambassador Blake kept her face calm, but her hands gripped the table edge. "We believe in being ready for anything." High Counselor Vextar's huge body cast shadows across the room. His scales were black now, the color of absolute authority among his people. "The time for games is over, Ambassador Blake. The Galactic Council has made a decision." The screen changed to show an official document written in the old galactic language. Every alien delegate had signed it. "Humanity has 72 hours to leave all disputed systems. If you refuse, our combined fleet will force you out." The silence was heavy. Captain Martinez slowly reached for the communication device on her belt. General Cole did not move, but his breathing changed. Ambassador Blake studied the document like she was reading her own death sentence. "I hope you understand what you are asking," Blake said carefully. The Lumiari representative glowed bright gold. "We understand perfectly. Humanity will learn to follow the rules or humanity will be destroyed." Admiral Zefkol showed his sharp teeth in a cruel smile. "Our combined fleet has 15,000 ships, Ambassador. You have maybe 200 ships that barely work. The math is simple." Captain Martinez finished sending her message and looked up. "Admiral, in my experience, math can be tricky. Are you threatening us?" The Bracken war chief stood up, his scarred armor gleaming under the lights. "I am sharing an observation," Martinez said without fear. The crystal being from Vorthan rang like a broken bell. "Your observations mean nothing. Your fleet is too small. Your weapons are too weak. Your technology is centuries behind ours." "Maybe," General Cole said slowly. "But we have something you do not have." "What?" Vextar demanded. "Experience fighting for our lives." The aliens laughed. Most of them had been at peace for thousands of years. Their wars were small things fought with rules and honor. They did not understand what humans knew about real war. The Serpentine delegate coiled tighter around his chair. "Experience cannot defeat numbers. Your 200 ships against our 15,000. You will be destroyed in minutes." 200 ships, Captain Martinez repeated thoughtfully. "Is that what your sensors tell you?" "Of course," Admiral Zefkol snapped. "We have scanned every human vessel in this system. Have you? Martinez asked. Something cold moved through the room. A few of the smarter aliens began to look worried. The Ethereal Collective's representative pulsed with nervous purple light. Ambassador Blake stood up slowly. Counselors, I think there might be some confusion about human capabilities. What confusion? Vextar's scales were turning dark red now. Your ships are primitive. Your weapons are weak. Your technology is laughable. Our technology, General Cole said with a small smile, is different from yours. Captain Martinez touched her communicator again. Commander Hayes, please show our friends what human sensors can really do. The main screen suddenly lit up with a perfect map of the entire star system. Every ship was marked with its name, size, weapons, crew count, and current status. Even ships that were supposed to be completely invisible were clearly shown. The alien delegates stared in shock. Their best stealth technology was useless. The humans could see everything. As you can see, Martinez said in a friendly voice, we have been watching every ship that entered this system for 3 weeks. We know which ships need fuel. We know which crews are tired. We know which commanders have been sending love letters home. The room was dead quiet except for the soft humming of the computer systems. Admiral Zefkol checked his own fleet reports. The human numbers were exactly right. Impossibly right. How do you have this information? We asked nicely, General Cole said. The Lumiari representative flickered between colors like a broken light. This changes nothing. Your intelligence cannot defeat our numbers. Maybe not, Blake agreed. But it makes the math more interesting. General Cole's communicator beeped softly. He listened for a moment, then nodded. Counselors, our ships have just been given permission to activate their defensive systems. Defensive systems? The floating jellyfish creature pulsed with confusion. Your ships are registered as unarmed diplomatic vessels. Yes, Captain Martinez said. They are diplomatic vessels. We find that diplomacy works better when backed by proper defense. On the tactical display, 17 human ships scattered through the system suddenly changed. What had looked like simple transport vessels now showed their true nature. Massive weapon arrays appeared on sensors. Shield generators hummed to life. Engine signatures spiked to impossible levels. Impossible, Admiral Zefkol whispered. Our sensors detected no significant weapons. Human stealth technology, Martinez explained politely, works differently than yours. Instead of making our ships invisible, we make them look like something else. The largest human vessel, which had been catalogued as a simple passenger ship, now showed its real form. It was a kilometer long and covered in weapons that the alien databases did not recognize. High Counselor Vextar's voice shook with rage. You brought warships to peace talks. We brought diplomats to peace talks, Ambassador Blake corrected. The warships were always here. You just did not see them. The alien delegates looked at their tactical displays in growing horror. The 17 human ships were not transport vessels. They were dreadnoughts. Each one was larger and more heavily armed than anything in the Galactic Fleet. This is treachery, the Bracken war chief roared. This is preparation, General Cole replied. We learned long ago that hoping for the best while preparing for the worst keeps you alive. Captain Martinez checked her own tactical readout. Admiral Zefkol, our sensors show your fleet moving into attack formation. I strongly suggest you reconsider. You dare give me orders? Admiral Zefkol's voice was like breaking glass. I am offering friendly advice, Martinez said. The kind of advice that might prevent a lot of unnecessary death. The tactical display expanded to show the space around the planet. What the aliens saw made several of them step backward in fear. The 17 human dreadnoughts were not alone. All through the system, more human ships appeared on sensors. Ships that had been hiding in asteroid fields. Ships that had been disguised as space debris. Ships that had been invisible to every scanner in the Galactic Fleet. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. You see, General Cole said calmly, humans have this habit of assuming that if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. Peace talks in a neutral system with the entire Galactic Fleet gathered in one place. We found that statistically unlikely to remain peaceful. The numbers on the alien tactical displays kept climbing. 800 human vessels. All of them armed. All of them ready for war. How many ships do you really have? Vextar asked in a voice like thunder. Ambassador Blake smiled for the first time since the talks began. It was not a diplomatic smile. Enough. The final day of talks started with the aliens feeling confident. They had numbers on their side. 15,000 ships against what they thought were just a few hundred human vessels. High Counselor Vextar opened the meeting with barely hidden joy. Ambassador Blake, has humanity decided to accept our demands? Catherine Blake stood slowly. For the first time since the talks began, she looked tired. The pressure of facing the entire galaxy was showing on her face. Counselor, we have thought about your ultimatum very carefully. And Admiral Zefkol was already planning how to divide up the human colonies among the different alien races. We refuse. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Aliens screeched, chittered, and roared in outrage. The Bracken war chief actually pulled out his ceremonial sword. Several delegates activated personal force fields. You cannot be serious, the Crystal Vorthan delegate chimed, his body ringing like a cracked bell. Your species will be wiped out. General Cole finally spoke, his military voice cutting through the chaos. Counselors, extinction is permanent. We have always tried to avoid permanent solutions. Your pride will destroy you, hissed the Serpentine representative. Do you really think your primitive weapons can fight technologies that are thousands of years old? Captain Martinez smiled for the first time since the negotiations started. Admiral Zefkol made an interesting point yesterday about mathematics. He said your combined fleet has 15,000 vessels. Exactly, Admiral Zefkol replied with confidence. Against your pathetic 200. Actually, Martinez continued, our count shows 15,347 vessels in this system. The alien delegates paused, confused. Admiral Zefkol checked his fleet reports. Yes, that is correct. How could you know such exact numbers? Because, Ambassador Blake said, her diplomatic mask finally falling away to show the steel underneath. We have been watching every ship that entered this system for 3 weeks. High Counselor Vextar's scales began shifting to a darker color. Impossible. Our vessels use the finest stealth technology in the galaxy. General Cole activated his personal communicator. Commander Hayes, please show our friends what human observation can really do. The main holographic display suddenly showed a perfect 3-dimensional map of the entire Kepler 442 system. Every single ship was highlighted and labeled. The display showed ship class, weapons, crew numbers, and current status. Even vessels that were supposed to be completely invisible were clearly marked. As you can see, Captain Martinez explained in a conversational tone, we have been tracking everything from your flagship down to the smallest supply ship. We know which vessels are low on fuel, which crews have not slept, and which commanders have been sending personal messages to their families. The chamber fell silent except for the soft humming of the holographic projectors. This changes nothing, Admiral Zefkol declared, though his voice was not as strong as before. Perfect intelligence cannot overcome such overwhelming numbers. Perhaps not, Blake agreed. But it does make the mathematics more complicated. General Cole's communicator chimed softly. He listened for a moment, then nodded. Counselors, our diplomatic vessels have just received clearance to activate their full defensive systems. Defensive systems? The Lumiari representative's light form flickered between colors. Your ships are registered as unarmed diplomatic transports. Yes, Captain Martinez replied. They are diplomatic transports. We have found that diplomacy works much better when supported by appropriate defensive measures. On the tactical display, 17 human vessels scattered throughout the system suddenly revealed their true nature. What had appeared to be lightly armed transport ships were now shown to be massive dreadnoughts. Their stealth systems shut down to reveal weapon arrays that made no sense to alien sensors. Impossible. Admiral Zefkol stared at the display in growing horror. Our sensors detected no significant weapons. Human stealth technology, Captain Martinez explained with professional politeness, takes a different approach than galactic standard. Instead of making our ships invisible, we make them appear to be something else entirely. The largest of the human vessels, initially listed as a simple diplomatic carrier, now displayed its true form. A kilometer-long battleship covered with weapon systems that registered as completely unknown energy signatures. High Counselor Vextar's voice shook with barely controlled rage. You brought warships to peace negotiations. We brought diplomats to peace negotiations, Ambassador Blake corrected. The warships were always here. You simply did not recognize them. General Cole stepped forward, his manner changing from military advisor to battlefield commander. Counselors, perhaps it is time you understood something basic about human nature. The holographic display changed to show humanity's expansion pattern over the past 3 years. Instead of random colonization, a clear strategic pattern emerged. Every human settlement was placed for maximum military advantage. Every system we have settled, Cole continued, was chosen for its strategic value. Every colony placement was calculated to provide optimal defensive positioning. Every peaceful settlement was designed from the ground up as a fortress. Commander Rachel Stone, the captain of the lead human dreadnought, appeared on the communication display. Her voice was calm and professional. Admiral Zeph Cole, our sensors indicate your fleet is beginning to move into attack formations. I strongly recommend against that course of action. You dare threaten the combined might of the Galactic Council? The Bracken war chief's roar echoed through the chamber. We do not threaten, Captain Martinez replied simply. We inform. The tactical display suddenly expanded to show the entire region of space surrounding Kepler 442b. What the alien delegates saw made several of them step backward in fear. The 17 human dreadnoughts were not alone. Scattered throughout the system, previously undetected human vessels began appearing on sensors, dozens of them. Then hundreds, you see, General Cole explained. Humans have this unusual habit of assuming that if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. Peace negotiations hosted in a neutral system, with the entire galactic fleet conveniently gathered in one location. We found that statistically unlikely to remain peaceful. Admiral Zeph Cole's hands trembled as he accessed his fleet's tactical computers. The numbers were impossible. There were over 800 human vessels in the system, many of them larger and more heavily armed than anything in the Galactic Fleet database. How? The single word came from the Vorthon delegate, his crystalline form now resonating with frequencies of pure fear. We have been preparing for this conversation for quite some time, Ambassador Blake said, her diplomatic mask now completely gone, replaced by something far more dangerous. Did you really think we would expand so aggressively without having a plan for when someone tried to stop us? The Lumiari representative's form was cycling rapidly through every color in the spectrum. This is madness. You are outnumbered 15-1. Captain Martinez checked her tactical readout. Actually, current count shows we are outnumbered roughly 2-1, and that assumes all of your vessels are combat ready. Which our intelligence suggests they are not, Cole added helpfully. Nearly 30% of your fleet is running on skeleton crews, and at least 40 vessels are operating with significant mechanical problems. Commander Stone's voice came through the communication system again. Admiral, we are detecting weapons charging on several of your vessels. This would be an excellent time to reconsider your tactical options. High Counselor Vextar's scales had gone completely black, a color pattern that among his species indicated mortal terror. What do you want? For the first time since the negotiations began, Ambassador Blake smiled. It was not a diplomatic smile. It was the smile of a predator that had just cornered its prey. Counselor, we want to discuss some revisions to those ancient agreements you mentioned earlier. The balance of power in the galaxy had just shifted forever. The Galactic Council chambers looked different the next morning. Gone were the high platforms that made the alien delegates tower over the humans. The new setup had a round table where everyone sat as equals. Though the power dynamic had changed completely, Admiral Zeph Cole sat stiffly in his chair, occasionally looking at the tactical displays that still showed the true size of human military presence in the system. His fleet remained in defensive positions, afraid to test whether humanity's revealed capabilities were as deadly as they appeared. Let us begin with territorial agreements, Ambassador Blake said, her tone now carrying the authority of someone backed by overwhelming force. The current boundaries established by the Galactic Council were created without human input or consideration for human expansion needs. High Counselor Vextar's voice was carefully controlled. What are you proposing? General Cole activated a new holographic display showing the disputed systems. We are proposing a reality-based approach to territorial management. These 17 systems are now under human protection. Protection? The Serpentine delegate's forked tongue flicked nervously. You mean occupation? We mean protection, Captain Martinez corrected. Any species wishing to maintain operations in these systems is welcome to do so, provided they follow the new security protocols. The Bracken war chief finally found his voice again. And if we refuse to follow your protocols? Captain Martinez's expression did not change. Then you are free to leave those systems. Commander Stone's image appeared on the communication display. Counselors, I should mention that our long-range sensors have detected additional fleet movements in neighboring systems. It appears word of our negotiations has spread to other interested parties. The alien delegates exchanged worried glances. If humanity had hidden this level of military capability in one system, what other surprises might be waiting throughout their expansion territories? There is something else you should understand about human nature, Blake continued. Human military doctrine has always emphasized one principle above all others. If you are going to fight, fight to win completely. Meaning what exactly? The Vorthan delegate's crystalline form was barely maintaining its shape. Meaning we did not just prepare for this conversation, General Cole explained with the patience of a teacher. We prepared for every possible outcome of this conversation. The tactical display changed again, showing shipping lanes and trade routes throughout the local galactic region. Nearly all of them passed through or near systems that humanity now controlled. Economic interdependence, Blake said with obvious satisfaction, is so much more civilized than warfare. The truth was becoming clear to the alien delegates. This had not been a desperate gamble by an overconfident young race. This had been a carefully planned strategy years in the making. The Lumiari representative's form had settled into a dull gray color of defeat. You have orchestrated this entire situation from the beginning. We have adapted to circumstances as they developed, Blake corrected diplomatically. Though I will admit some humans have an unfortunate tendency to plan for worst-case scenarios. Admiral Zefkol finally found his voice again. What assurance do we have that humanity will not continue this aggressive expansion throughout the galaxy? The same assurance we have that the Galactic Council will not attempt to forcibly remove us from systems we have legitimately settled, Captain Martinez replied. Mutual respect for clearly defined boundaries. And those boundaries would be determined how? High Counselor Vextar asked, though he already suspected the answer. To be negotiated fairly between equal partners, Blake said firmly. The age of species being dictated to by ancient councils operating under outdated assumptions is now over. General Cole's communicator chimed softly. He listened briefly, then nodded with satisfaction. Counselors, our intelligence networks have confirmed that 6 additional younger species are watching the outcome of these negotiations very closely. Apparently, humanity is not the only species that has grown dissatisfied with the current galactic order. The implications hung in the air like a threat that did not need to be spoken. The established powers were no longer dealing with a single upstart species, but potentially the beginning of a fundamental shift in galactic politics. The crystal being from Vorthon made sounds like wind chimes in a storm. You are threatening to destabilize thousands of years of peace. We are offering to stabilize thousands of years of suppression, Blake replied without hesitation. There is a difference. Captain Martinez stood and walked to the main display. Let me show you something interesting about galactic history. The hologram changed to show expansion patterns over the past 5,000 years. Notice anything unusual about these territorial boundaries? Admiral Zefkol studied the display reluctantly. They have remained essentially static. Exactly, Martinez continued. For 5,000 years, the same 12 species have controlled the same territories. No new species has been allowed to join the major powers. No boundaries have changed. No growth has been permitted. That is because we achieved perfect balance, the ethereal collective's representative pulsed with defensive purple light. You achieved perfect stagnation, General Cole corrected. And you called it peace. Ambassador Blake moved to stand beside the display. What you created was not peace. It was a prison. A galaxy-wide system designed to keep new species small and powerless while the old guard maintained their control. Those systems worked, High Counselor Vextar protested, though his conviction was wavering. They worked for you, Blake replied. They did not work for the hundreds of species that remained trapped in single-system territories. They did not work for the races that were denied expansion rights. They did not work for anyone who was not already part of your exclusive club. The room fell silent as the aliens absorbed this perspective. Many of them had never considered how the galactic order looked from the outside. Commander Stone's voice came through the communications again. Admiral Zefkol, we are receiving transmissions from 17 different species requesting permission to observe these negotiations. Should we grant access? The color drained from Admiral Zefkol's face. 17 species wanting to watch. 17 potential allies for humanity. 17 possible challenges to the old order. Deny all requests, he said quickly. Actually, Ambassador Blake interrupted, we think transparency would be beneficial. Commander Stone, please grant observation access to any species that request it. You cannot make that decision. The Bracken war chief roared. We just did. Captain Martinez said calmly. Within minutes, holographic representatives from dozens of species appeared around the chamber. Young races that had been denied expansion for centuries. Older species that had been marginalized by the current power structure. Even some established races that had grown tired of the rigid galactic hierarchy. Fellow sapient beings, Ambassador Blake addressed the new arrivals. You are witnessing the dawn of a new age in galactic relations. An age where might does not automatically make right. Where ancient privilege does not trump current needs. Where the law applies equally to all species, regardless of how long they have held power. The original 12 delegates looked around the room with growing alarm. This was no longer a simple territorial dispute with an upstart human colony. This was the beginning of a galactic revolution. What do you want from us? High Counselor Vextar asked, his massive frame seeming to shrink under the weight of changing circumstances. Ambassador Blake smiled, and this time it was a diplomat's smile. Professional, confident, and absolutely terrifying to those who opposed her. We want you to join us in building something better. 3 days later, the Galactic Council chambers buzzed with activity, as representatives from 43 different species filled the expanded meeting space. The old 12-member council had become something much larger and more inclusive overnight. Ambassador Blake stood at the center of the round table, no longer just representing humanity but serving as the voice of what the media was, already calling the New Galactic Alliance. Her diplomatic uniform now bore additional insignia, representing the coalition of species that had joined the human cause. The first order of business, Blake announced to the packed chamber, is establishing new territorial guidelines that reflect current realities rather than ancient assumptions. High Counselor Vextar sat in his designated seat, his once proud posture now showing the weight of his species' diminished influence. Around him, the other original council members looked like prisoners at their own trial. Admiral Zefkol had spent the past 3 days frantically communicating with his home fleet, only to discover that similar diplomatic incidents had occurred in 7 other systems. Humanity had not put all their eggs in one basket. They had planned multiple scenarios across multiple locations. The Zelthani Empire formally requests clarification on the new territorial boundaries, Vextar said, his voice carefully neutral. General Cole activated the holographic display showing the updated star map. Large sections that had been colored in the traditional 12 Empire. Colors were now marked with the insignia of dozens of different species. The new boundaries reflect actual occupation and development rather than historical claims, Cole explained. Species that actively use and develop systems retain control. Species that claim systems but leave them empty forfeit those claims to races willing to develop them. The Bracken war chief slammed his fist on the table. This is theft. My people have claimed those systems for over 2,000 years. Captain Martinez looked up from her tactical display. War Chief, your people have visited those systems exactly 17 times in the past century. The Corvan Republic has established thriving colonies there in just the past 6 months. A new voice spoke up from across the chamber. The Corvan Republic thanks the Human Alliance for recognizing our legitimate development efforts. Admiral Zefkol's face twisted with frustration. You cannot simply redraw the galactic map based on convenience. We are not redrawing anything, Ambassador Blake replied smoothly. We are acknowledging what already exists. The galaxy has changed. The map should reflect that change. The Lumiari representative flickered through several colors before settling on a resigned blue. What guarantee do we have that this new alliance will not simply replace our hegemony with your own? An excellent question, Blake said, walking to the center of the chamber. The answer lies in the structure of our new arrangement. The holographic display changed to show an organizational chart. Instead of the old pyramid structure with the 12 empires at the top, it showed a complex web of interconnected relationships. The New Galactic Alliance operates on the principle of mutual benefit, rather than hierarchical control, Blake explained. No single species holds veto power. No permanent seats. No untouchable privileges. Commander Stone's image appeared on the communication screen. Counselors, I have an update on fleet dispositions throughout the local galactic region. The tactical display showed the current location of military forces from all major species. What the original council members saw made several of them visibly pale. Human fleets were now openly positioned in over 200 systems. But they were not alone. Ships from dozens of allied species had joined them, creating a military network that spanned nearly a quarter of the galaxy. How did you coordinate all of this? The Serpentine delegate asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The same way we coordinated everything else, General Cole answered. Very carefully over a very long time. Captain Martinez stood and addressed the chamber. For the past 5 years, while you were ignoring the younger species and maintaining your comfortable status quo, we were building relationships. We were sharing technology. We were creating trade networks. We were forming alliances. You were planning a revolution, the Crystal Vorthon delegate chimed accusingly. We were planning for the future, Blake corrected. A future where the galaxy is governed by cooperation rather than domination. The ethereal collective's representative pulsed with nervous energy. What happens to our existing territories? Our established colonies? Our people? Nothing, Blake said simply. Existing colonies remain under their current governments. Established territories are respected. We are not interested in conquest. We are interested in opportunity. Admiral Zefkol leaned forward. And if we refuse to accept these new arrangements? The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew this was the crucial question, the moment that would determine whether this transition happened peacefully or through force. Ambassador Blake was quiet for a long moment, choosing her words carefully. Admiral, you are free to refuse. Your species is free to maintain its old ways within its old borders, but you cannot prevent other species from choosing a different path. And if we try to enforce the old territorial claims by force? Vextar asked. Captain Martinez smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. Then you will discover why humanity chose to reveal our military capabilities during peace talks rather than during war. General Cole added, we would prefer to avoid that demonstration. The threat was clear without being directly stated. The old powers could accept the new reality and maintain their core territories, or they could fight and risk losing everything. A new voice spoke from the observer section. The Andromedan Collective formally requests membership in the new Galactic Alliance. Request granted, Blake said immediately. Welcome to the Alliance. Within minutes, a dozen more requests for membership came from species that had been waiting centuries for a chance to join galactic politics as equals rather than subjects. High Counselor, Vextar watched his empire's influence crumble in real time. What assurance do we have that this alliance will honor existing treaties and agreements? The same assurance we had that the old council would treat new species fairly, Blake replied. You will have to trust us to be better than you were. The old order was ending. The Galactic Council that had ruled through fear and tradition for thousands of years was being replaced by something new. Something that promised equality instead of hierarchy. Something that offered opportunity instead of stagnation. Admiral Zefkol finally asked the question that everyone was thinking. What do you call this new government? Ambassador Blake looked around the chamber filled with representatives from dozens of species. Young races finally given a voice. Old empires forced to compete on equal terms. A galaxy united not by conquest but by choice. We call it democracy, she said simply. Outside the chamber windows, human dreadnoughts maintained their positions among the stars. No longer hidden, no longer pretending to be something they were not. Silent guardians of a new age where peace was maintained not through suppression, but through balance. The peace talks had not collapsed. They had succeeded beyond anyone's imagination. The galaxy would never be the same, and that, the humans decided, was exactly the point. As the session ended and delegates began filing out to report to their home governments, General Cole approached Ambassador Blake. Think it will work? He asked quietly. Blake watched the alien delegates networking and forming new alliances, species that had been enemies for millennia finding common ground. Marcus, we just convinced the galaxy to adopt representative democracy, backed by the threat of overwhelming force. If that is not the most human solution to galactic politics ever devised, I do not know what is. The general smiled. So that is a yes? That is a hell yes. The human revolution had succeeded. Now came the harder part, making it work.